rolling? Yay!
Start.
Wait. All right. I love it. Well, first of all, thanks for watching, everybody. Back at you with another episode here today, coming from the San Diego area in California, which I really enjoyed. And it's mid-December, and I haven't worn a jacket much at all, just at night. But so I just finished taking this really great course here. I want to interview the creator and instructor because she's a friend of mine. She's really has just so much amazing knowledge that she shared with us. And I want to share her to share with you. So she is the owner, creator of Strength Therapy, creator of the Scully Method, NKT instructor, gym owner, and play advocate.
Yes.
Which I really love. When I first met you in Toronto, I heard you say that and said, okay, I have to know this person because play is a great word. It's a great concept. But anyways, my special guest today with me is Jackie Wu. Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you.
It's great to be here. Great to see you.
Great to see you
I've been looking
too.
forward to seeing you. I've been looking forward to this course, which I really liked a lot. It's fantastic. So, can you tell people a little bit about how this course came to be? We were talking about this earlier off camera.
Yeah.
Just how about maybe even back it up a little into your whole concept of working out?
All right. Well, those are two different topics. So we'll talk about my concept of working out now. So my little bit of history on my physical activity history, I guess. I used to be in competitive martial arts. I used to be a taekwondo competitor, and all that good stuff. So it was always like train hard all the time. And then the harder the better. If you close all the doors and you got to fog up all the windows, and that's when you had a good workout. You had to be drowning in your own sweat, and that was what I knew as a workout. But then I realized it was starting to tear up my body. Partly because I broke my back, not from taekwondo, but actually from a quad accident, a four-wheeler accident in the desert, and I broke my back, and I realized that I wasn't able to work out the way that I had before without doing damage to my back. Like I was actually still able to compete in things, but I knew it wasn't good for me long term. So I had to find another way to do things and still have my body be fit and still be active and still move around because, originally Carl wanted to stand and he's like, we can stand or we can sit. I'm like, can we just sit on a table so I can sometimes pretend I'm sitting on a chair and sometimes pretend I'm sitting on the floor and like kneel around or whatever, because I don't like to sit still all the time, even before the whole back thing. So I started lifting, and I started learning how to lift, but more of like hard style kettlebell type of stuff, like RKC style stuff, which helped a lot with my rehab. But then I realized that anytime I traveled or had like a tough week or something, and when I was tired, I would actually hurt a lot more when I lifted and did a hard workout. So I started getting away from that more and more, but then I wanted to do things during that break time. So I started doing just kind of movement-y stuff. And what I mean by movement-y stuff, it's basically like movements that are just borrowed from this and that, the other thing, and then some that I just kind of make up on my own. Because it's just movement, right? No movement right now is created by any person or company or whatever, because we're the human body. It's natural, we move, that's how it is, right? So nobody created it, somebody just organized it and brought it to light to more people, right? So I just move, and then I started realizing that I felt better the more I moved and the more ways that I moved. And I'm by nature a pretty happy-go-lucky person. So
She doesn't seem like it though, but go ahead.
But so I basically will like have music in my head or music playing around or whatever, and I'll just be silly. I'll do some stuff from yoga. I'll do some stuff from animal flow. I'll do some stuff from 5-minute flow. I'll do stuff from like pretending to be a panther. I don't know. Just really, like if you just pretend that you're something else, it's really really fun because yeah, it's totally fun. I love climbing trees. I mean, climbing trees is a way where you can move your body in all these different ways, and then you can pretend to like avoid branches and not trees though, you're in the tree. Avoid branches and leaves and things. So you're like twisting and contorting your body, you're reaching out with legs and feet and using your toes and ankles in all these different ways. You get to hang upside down, you get to push yourself off of a thing, and you get to work out, you get to move three-dimensionally in your body, just along this other life force. It's super, super fun. And you get to move all of the joints in your body, and you get to play with a tree.
Trees are good and they're healthy.
They are.
They really are.
You can hide and you can be a monkey. You can whatever, it's really fun. But it makes you feel so much better because everything gets to move versus, you know, I know you like to run, and there was a while where I actually ran a lot too. It was actually, ironically, right after I broke my back. I'm like, oh, I can run. I'll keep doing that. And I would run like an hour each time. I'm like, that's a lot. I used to never run. And then I would feel good from running from the endorphins, but not physically, because my back would always get stiffened up and things like that. And then I started putting two and two together and realizing, hey, I don't need to lift or do organized workouts to make myself feel good and healthy. All I have to do is just move more myself more often, and that's pretty much it. And it doesn't say anything about like, oh yeah, I've sworn off running ever. I don't do hill sprints, whatever. I don't do I don't lift. No, I still do those on occasion, but not life or death. Like I have to do this. This is my program. This is my regimen. No, it's part of my routine of no routine. Right. It's organized chaos. And even when I do stuff like lifting, it's rarely now just strict lifting anymore. It'll be like I'll work in sets of like, okay, well sometimes I'll do like barbell hip thrusts, and then after that I'll dance, and then after that I'll do handstands, you know, and then I'll do like rounds of that until I get bored. How many reps of each? I don't know, just some until I get bored, right? I don't like to count things because when you're counting things, you're focusing more on the number versus the actual quality of movement. And the more experience that I have in life or whatever in general, I feel that it's not it's not quantity, it's quality that matters. And it seems to be more and more true for more things in life. So I keep kind of going to that. So I've stopped counting things. And even when I train people or when I'm teaching people movement things, and they're like, how many of these should I do on each side? I'm like, I don't know, some. But what I do more though is I teach them how to pay attention to their body and how to listen to their body and what their body's trying to tell them. So that if their body says, hey, that's about all I can do if you want me to do it this way. If you want me to continue doing this movement thing, I'm going to find another way to do it. Okay, I teach them to learn how to feel where that point is so that they can stop.
Yeah.
And that stopping is actually okay and it's actually good. And I don't care if you're number 9 reps and you can't get to number 10 because that's where it says, you know, stop. Don't be so OCD about it. Like stop at 9 is okay, but that's also partly why I don't count. Because if I count, then I'm like, oh, I can totally make it to 10 because I'm competitive. I can totally make it to 10. If I get to 10, I can totally make it to 15. If I get to 15, I can totally make it to 20. Like one of those things. So if you just bring the numbers out of it, like that just solves that whole thing. But since I've taken out the regimen of like, oh, I gotta work out super hard, I gotta get a big sweat, I gotta lift heavy, I gotta run fast, run hard, do all this stuff. And I've moved more towards of just a full body movementy stuff often, sometimes, random times in the day. I don't even block out times in the day anymore to move. It's literally just part of my life, which I think is what human beings should be anyway, because, I mean, if you think like way back when, I'm not even gonna say any time period because like even our grandparents, whatever, who actually would like take the time to say, okay, I'm gonna block this hour to go do physical activity. Like, no, I don't have time for that. I gotta wash my clothes, like by hand, I gotta take care of the kids, I gotta do the gardening, I gotta go hunt something, I gotta do this and that, and they're staying active themselves, they're moving around, they're doing everything physically themselves. They don't need to work out,
Well, on that note, there's a book I've been reading for the second or third time. I think I've done it twice already. Go Wild. John Rady, he's at Harvard. He also wrote a book called Spark, which I really like.
That's good.
It talks all about BDNF in the brain and how it improves retention and learning and a lot of other things. But going back to Go Wild, what I love about this book is it's described, as I'm reading it the first time back in May, when I had officially converted from the old, let's say, more traditional style weightlifting workouts, especially with my background, with my training background and who I'm certified through and all. I think some people would cringe if they heard what I do, but I don't really care because
I'm gonna high-five you for that.
you have to do what works for you, right?
Yeah.
And when I went to this idea, this is like 2 months before I met you, 2 or 3 months before I met you in Toronto in July this year, that I had converted into more just the play aspect, and gotten away from running on roads and streets as much, and really started to go just trails and hills, because that way it keeps it interesting for me. And every step, in some cases, is a potential death trap, which to me is kind of cool because you're in your moment. You're in with every single step. You're there. Scenery's great. It's great to be connected to the earth, be in nature. But in Go Wild, he talks about how this, first of all, being connected with nature is great. Being connected with a tree is great because it's good for us, good for our immune systems. Being connected with the ground is great. It's great for us in so many ways. But also he talks about the history of people. Like gyms are a relatively new concept.
Yeah.
I mean, 200 years ago, I don't think there are any gyms around here. People didn't really need to go to the gym, and generally they were more healthy and more fit. I mean, they had other diseases back then that wiped out societies here and there. But if you think about the overall health and what they were doing, what you just said is exactly what people were doing. They also talk in another book that I'm reading right now, another one I'm reading now, always reading 3 or 4 at once, called The Obesity Code. I can't remember the author's name, but they used to move more. It was part of their life, and it was necessary. And so, like what I really like about what Jackie does, which has inspired me to become more involved in that type of workout, if you will, is that we're going back, kind of like to being humans again.
Yeah.
I like it. I feel so much better after those workouts.
So much fun, huh?
And it's fun. That's the other thing too. I never dread moving the way I move now.
Yeah.
And you know my movement
Yeah.
sucks. Okay, we
It
know I
doesn't
have
suck.
some.
It doesn't
I have
suck.
some serious mobility issues that have actually gotten better, believe it or not. But it's because of those things that it's helped me so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's good. I'm really happy. Really
Yeah.
happy.
Well, I love your whole, like when you said that word play in Toronto. Then okay, I have to know her. So, well, tell us more then. So you've been instructing for MKT for a while, right?
Oh yeah, that's a couple years.
And how long has strength therapy been around?
Strength therapy has.
That's your brand.
Yeah. So I just kind of started creating a brand. Is it a year or 2? I don't know.
Mhm.
2 years, I guess.
Mhm.
I guess 2 years ago is when strength therapy officially became a thing.
Okay.
And it just started out being as more of just awareness building for different ways of seeing common problems and things that you can do about it that don't involve medication, that don't involve surgery, that don't involve unnecessary interventions.
Even better.
Things that you can do yourself, things that therapists can help their clients and patients with that don't require drugs and medical intervention of things, unless of course they're necessary. But a lot of times people have injuries and pains and movement disableness, movement disabilities, I don't know, whatever, blocks, that are completely resolvable by just a different way of movement or attention at a different area. So like, for example, hip stuff, right? A lot of people are like, oh, my hips are locked up, and all they're doing is just a bunch of hip stuff. But it's like, well, have you worked in your core? You know, have you worked in your core at all? They're like, oh yeah, I do sit-ups. So no, not your abs. Have you worked in your core? Like, there's a whole difference. And they're like, oh, well, no, but a lot of hip immobility is because there's no stability in the core, right? So, and then sometimes, I mean, like people are like, oh, my neck hurts, my neck hurts, my neck hurts, and then all they look at is the neck. And sometimes, you know, you get lucky and they'll look at your shoulders and your thoracic spine too, but I'm like, what about your ankles? You know, ankles are tied to your neck too. They're like, what? Yeah, you know. So, I mean, I had a case, a lot of different cases, but there's a case I had in Singapore when I was there last week. A scar, a little tiny little scar on this woman's forehead, gave her scoliosis. It was the coolest thing. Like, you know, you work on the scar. It was literally like a 1 minute work on her scar, and she felt her entire body unravel.
Really?
Yeah. And then, like originally she was laying on the table, kind of crooked, but that was how she felt straight. And then after we did this thing, and she's all like, "Whoa, it feels super weird." I'm like, "Do you feel crooked?" She's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Here, adjust yourself until you feel straight." And she's like adjusting, and then she's perfectly straight on the table.
Whoa.
And I'm like, "Okay, that scar gave you scoliosis." That, all right? So like, I like to show people and just make aware that a lot of times where you're looking for the problem, because the body says here's a problem, is often not the cause of the problem. Like if the body says I have pain somewhere, that's typically not the cause of the problem, not the cause of the pain.
Yeah.
Unless there was like a blunt trauma, right? That's different. But like if you're like, oh yeah, just randomly I woke up and my neck hurts or whatever, or randomly my shoulder, I don't remember anything happening, but just started hurting. Guess what? It's not a shoulder problem. Look somewhere else, right? But traditional therapists now, they'll look at the site of the injury because they're kind of bound to that by either insurance policies or education. Now the education, the formal education now says, hey, if it hurts here, look here, you know. Or like insurance says, you know, if it hurts here, then you're only allowed to treat there. But the people who write the insurance policies rarely ever know what they're talking about because they're not in the field anymore, right? But that's kind of what I wanted to do with strength therapy. And then it's kind of evolved where now I want like another portion of strength therapy where part of it is geared towards therapists to make them aware of more things that they can do to help their patients and clients themselves, to another portion where I want to help as many of the people as I can by making videos and things where they can help themselves. So for example, I'm making like a self-treat or a self-help, whatever version of disc herniation. So if you have a disc herniation, or this actually goes along with almost any type of low back pain, you can help yourself. And the reason why I know it works is because that's what I did for me. When I broke my back, nobody believed that I broke my back because they took the x-rays wrong. And they only looked at one plane. And they're like, oh yeah, you still have all your vertebrae, you're good to go. I'm like, it doesn't feel right. And I did my own rehab for 5 months before I found out it was broken.
Wow.
So I had to learn all this stuff from scratch by myself. And I'm like, hey, if I can do it, anybody can do it. I just need to put it in an organized way where I can help people learn how to do this themselves. So now I'm doing some of that, but then also the Scully Method, right? The Scully Method, I don't know if you want to jump straight to that or whatever, but...
I do. I want to say one other thing. I want to add something because when I met you in Toronto, the first day, we went to lunch, we're walking down the road, and I want to say she has a real good eye for picking stuff out, right? And I have been, as some of you may know if you follow the post, some hip pain here that I've been dealing with, which has gotten much better. But at that point, it was hurting pretty bad, and we're walking down the road. This is my right hip. She says, "What's up with your left ankle?" Nothing. She says, "No, there is something." No, I don't think so. Well, did you ever sprain it? It actually took me a while. I couldn't remember. But yeah, I did. I actually thought I sprained my right one, but it was my left one. Well, actually, after watching her go to work on me and other people at this thing that we were at, your eye for picking things out is really good.
Thank you.
And so I guess what I mean to do is here tie in the fact that, you know, my pain, now I think there's a couple things that have caused or added to the pain. Working on this is one thing. Then I have this watch that I've been wearing.
Don't let your kids hear this.
No, they're going to find out anyways. I feel so bad. My kids got me this beautiful watch. My family got me a beautiful watch for my birthday this year. So I've been wearing it for 5 months, and it actually made some things worse here. And just even here, before we go to Scully Method, which actually this happened at the Scully Method course here this weekend, so this is going to be like an introduction to it. But basically, I have the watch on, we're doing before pictures. Before we even got to the treatment and all that, and then an after picture, I had 2 before pictures. Before with the watch, before without the watch. I wasn't trying to stand up any different, but my posture was completely different.
Yeah.
I had no idea that. I feel sad about the watch, but I also really want to feel better. So, anyways, that was here at Scully Method. So let's talk about Scully.
All right.
Yeah, that was, by the way, an amazing course.
Thank you.
Plus, I love what you did by integrating. I look at it as you have really taken now and created. First of all, it's for everyone, not just scoliosis.
Yeah.
The stuff works for everyone, but how you've integrated all these different components into it, I see it as addressing the body as the most holistic way that I could think of. I wouldn't even thought of half the stuff she did, but it's a really great holistic approach.
Thank you.
Like you're treating the body as a whole. You're looking at all the systems.
Thank you.
So let's talk about the Scully Method.
The Scully Method was an accident. It was never done on purpose. It was never done intentionally. It all started back when I had my very first scoliosis patient client, whatever you want to call them. His name is Adam. And he's like, hey, I've got scoliosis. Can you do anything about this? I'm like, sure, I don't know what it is, but let's give it a try. Let's see what we got. And back then, my knowledge was very limited. And through NKT, we had like a saying called test, don't guess. So we got to test a lot of neurological relationships and see what was compensating for what. And so through that, I was helping him quite a bit already and making a lot of relatively big changes in comparison to I don't know what he had experienced before. Back then, I knew nothing about scoliosis at all. And so during the course of the couple years, I was just taking courses and reading books and watching videos, whatever, learning from various sources and shadowing people and whatever. Learning from a lot of different sources, and I just started applying more and more to my scoliosis people. And I was doing the same thing with all my other clients as well, but it just happened that, with scoliosis, you can see a very clear difference between, before and after picture. And I thought it was pretty cool. I was like, oh, that's pretty neat. It went from like this looking thing to like that. I'm like, that's pretty neat. That's kind of cool. And I didn't really know what I had. And so I just, posted up on Facebook because I'm like, hey, that's kind of cool. It's like one of those like face brag things. And
A face brag.
Yeah, face brag.
I'm gonna steal that.
Yeah.
Face brag.
And I didn't really know what I had. And then I get to the point where like there are a few cases where, and also back then, like I didn't have a ton of scoliosis clients. It was just like whoever came in. But because I was in Southeast Asia at that time, there was probably more there than I would have seen if I were to stay in the States. So it got to the point where like there were several scoliosis cases that I worked on where I had them from curved spine to straight spine in less than 3 sessions. And these are all like 50-minute, 1-hour sessions, right? And I was like, that's pretty cool. And then I just put a little thing up there one time and like, yeah, it looks like I'm getting the hang of the scoliosis thing, huh? That's kind of cool. And again, I didn't know what I had. But I had already gotten several messages from several therapists saying, hey, what are you doing with scoliosis? What are you doing with it? What are you doing? I'm like, I'm just treating what I find. I find stuff and I treat it, find stuff and I treat it, blah, 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 whatever. And then like these messages would just kind of keep coming every once in a while. And then the real big change happened in my mindset. The real big change happened was when I went to Singapore in June this last year. And this was right before I met you. So this is brand new. I went to Singapore for about a week this past June to teach NKT, and then they had booked some appointments for me to see, like some of my students had booked appointments for their patients to see me as well, because they're like, oh, well, we can't do it, so maybe our teacher can do something. So I'm like, all right, let's do stuff. And when I treat people or when I address people's stuff, I never only stick to one approach. I do a bunch of different stuff just depending on what that person needs. Like every treatment that I have for people is individual for what that person needs at that time and space. Nothing is repeated just mindlessly. Okay? Everything is done with a purpose. And so ended up having like several scoliosis cases, and I had several of my students hang around and shadow me for the week, and even just for just a few days. And so I'm like, oh, another Scully case, let's do this. So I just go through some of the stuff, and they're like, wow, this is really cool stuff. This is really cool stuff. I'm like, whatever. But there was one student there. Her name is Valerie Chai. She's from Malaysia, and she actually used to work at out of a scoliosis specialty physio clinic in Malaysia. And in Malaysia, there's a lot of scoliosis. So she was working there, and she was like, wow, holy cow, like you're making a huge difference on these people in this short amount of time. There's no pain involved. There's no like crazy weird contractions. You can take this anywhere you go, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, but isn't that normal? I'm like, I didn't know what I had, right? Because like the way that I decide what kind of methods that I use and what kind of courses that I take and things, I want it to be quick. I want it to be easy. Not necessarily like theory-wise, but like I want it to be where it's not super complicated, right? And then I want it to be effective, right? So they have to work and they have to stick. They can't just be temporary. So these are my 4 requirements of when I'm taking courses or choosing courses, or even if I take a course and I just choose parts and bits of a particular course to apply. Those are just my requirements of what I want for my patients and clients, because that's what they want, and I want that for them too. I mean, who wants to sit around for like 8 weeks and to see if anything worked yet for those 8 weeks? Like,
well, plus those contraptions you showed in some of the
geez.
slides.
Oh.
So go to Google and look up scoliosis.
Yeah, there's
and
yeah,
these are treatments.
Yeah, scoliosis treatment, scoliosis equipment, scoliosis exercises.
Or
Like
some of the stuff that they do, it's like, this looks awful.
It's terrible.
Terrible.
And the thing is, like
Painful.
when I was in Singapore at that time, I actually hadn't researched scoliosis yet. I had no idea what was out there, and it was just because that one person was just floored by the treatment itself and also the effectiveness of it.
And she worked at scoliosis clinic.
Yes, yes.
So she had knowledge of what was already going on in that world.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was that influenced me to actually do some research. So when I got back to California, I'm like, oh, I might as well do some research about it. See what's actually out there. Let's just see what happens. Because before that, I'm like, if you want to learn this, just come shadow me, whatever. You can just see some stuff and whatever. So then I got on the Googles, and I'm like, scoliosis treatments and blah, blah, blah. And I was heartbroken.
Yeah.
I was completely heartbroken because there's nothing out there. There's some stuff out there, but it's not good. Like, there's the wait and see, which is like, just wait and see what happens. Well, guess what? This last time I was in Singapore, there was a girl who was 11 when she was discovered with scoliosis, and then the doctor said wait and see. So the 1 year later for her school checkup, she measured it. It went from an 11 or 12 degree curve to a 37-degree curve in 1 year. Wait and see.
Wow.
And the doctors were like, you're not in pain. Keep waiting. I'm like, are you kidding me? This girl is in the middle of like her growth spurt. You're telling her to wait for something that just increased that much
Wow.
in that short of a time span. You want her to wait and see what happens. You want to wait to see when she gets in pain before you do anything about it. Are you kidding me? Or like you see these pictures of these children, because most of the majority of people who have scoliosis or get scoliosis get it when they're children, like when they're going through puberty.
Which I find really interesting. I didn't know that till this weekend. I just always associated with the elderly, but
Yeah.
well, sort of. I have one client in her 50s who has it. She's had it for many years, but that's really fascinating. It's good to know too, because we don't want to leave out the younger population and just figure they don't have it.
Yeah. So a lot of them start having it when they're pretty young, and you can also develop it when you're older. You can give yourself scoliosis, right?
I was hoping you'd say that, because if you didn't, I was going to.
Yeah, you can give yourself scoliosis. I've worked on some people who actually gave themselves scoliosis.
Can I ask, give an example? For example, your daily movements, or let's say you have a repetitive movement that just puts you into that. I know a friend of mine who's a percussionist who I know him 35 years. We met in like 1979 or 1980 in college. And the poor guy, he's pretty much, I mean, just in terrible pain. And it's so bent because when he's playing the congas and all that, he's always, I think he's been to the right, I don't remember. But the thing is that because that posture was always executed during all the sessions and whatever, night after night and day after day, he gave himself scoliosis. And people can do that in a more mild manner. I mean, but it can, stuff you do, sit up straight, walk, concentrate on your posture. I'm gonna let you talk about that though, just because you're my guest. You just hear those things. Plus, a lot of my listeners hear stuff from me all the time. They're sick of me, so they want to hear from you. But yeah, what would you advise for people? I was thinking this when you were talking about some other stuff. What would you advise so that people don't get scoliosis?
So to not give yourself scoliosis as an adult or as a human being, even yourself out, like do things equally left and right. Like a lot of people tend to go right-handed for everything. Challenge yourself and use your left hand to do stuff, right? Like even it can start something as simple as day-to-day, like brushing your teeth. Brush your teeth with your left hand, right? Because if you're always brushing your teeth with your right hand, and let's say you protract your shoulder, you do one of these things, internally rotate your shoulder like that, and you're brushing your teeth like this all the time, you could, and this isn't going to say that you will, but you could eventually create a more rotating pattern going towards the left, right? So maybe if you go to the right, you start evening out.
Brain too.
That's totally good for your brain too.
Yeah.
Or like rock climbers. Some rock climbers only like to climb to one side, right? If you only climb to one side, you can give yourself scoliosis.
Yeah, right.
Racers, people that race around tracks, whether it be skaters, ice or blade or whatever other kind of skate, or cycling or running, or even race car driving. Believe it or not.
Yeah, sure.
Anything where you're going around the track, when you're going around the track in the same direction, you can give yourself scoliosis. I met somebody who was a speed skater for the Korea Olympic team, and she gave herself scoliosis because all they did for practice and competition was skate to the left. Everything was skate to the left, skate to the left. And I said, hey, when you train, do you do anything skating to the right? They said no. Because they just want to get better at skating to the left. So they did nothing to skate to the right, not even in off-season training, like nothing to offset the skating to the left. So her entire body wanted to go left. So whenever she wanted to go straight, her body was like, no, we want to go left. And so it gave herself scoliosis that way. But yeah, just even yourself out. Like, you'll see me like going like this side, you can switch to this side, whatever, but do things equally on both sides. If you cross your legs one way, right, or like do this a lot, try the other side. Even with your arms, try it with the other way. It feels really awkward at first, right? But you try those things and it exercises your brain a bit, but then also, especially with the leg stuff, like even here, I have my right leg on top and I have my left on the bottom. You switch it. That's actually better for your hips because if one's higher than the other, it moves your pelvis, right? So it can shorten one side versus the other. It can cause a hip hike if you don't even things out. Not saying that it will, but it can. And I mean, depends on how much you want to prevent stuff. And I'm more about preventative measures rather than treatment, because if you can prevent something bad from happening, then perfect, bad things don't happen. But if you wait too long to take care of yourself, sometimes it gets to the point where you actually hurt yourself to the where it's much more difficult to bring yourself back.
And I find I have to be mindful of this because when I drive, I don't drive as much as I used to because I'm flying more now, but when I drive, I tend to have the elbow here, and I just drive from here and like whatever with this hand, right? And then I realized that this is all jacked up, everything feels weird over here, my head's turned funny, so I'm trying to be mindful of driving like this, or one side, you know, or the other side, but I'm not all left side dominant now steering anymore because it actually just hurts too much.
Yeah, change, just keep moving.
And I used to carry this bag on my right shoulder only, and like this upper trap was totally jacked. And that, I know women sometimes will carry a purse on one shoulder, or a guy who carries a bag on one shoulder all the time. switch to the other side, or just get something that goes in your back and is not an asymmetrical weight, because it'll probably help you a lot.
Yeah, totally.
It's easy to get jacked up with a very small amount of weight too.
Yes,
right?
It absolutely is, because it becomes a habit.
It's not even like the bag was heavy. It's like I only did this so it wouldn't slide off.
Yeah.
Because the shoulder has a downward thing, right? So I do this. Well, you do this enough.
It's like when you like take a drip of water and you like drip it on a piece of wood. One little drop of water isn't going to do much to the wood, but a continuous, just little bit by little bit over time, you can actually deteriorate the wood.
Yeah, true.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's all about habits. I think our bodies are a reflection of what our habits are. You know, so if you don't like what your body represents, or you don't like how your body feels, it's a representation of what your habits are like and what they have been for the last several years. It's nothing that sprung up overnight. Even though some of it feels like it might have been, it's not. It's been there for a long time, and it just got to a point where your body said, I give up. Ow. And then something hurts.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you have a website,
Yes.
strength-therapy.com, right?
Yes.
So I'll have that on the screen here for the people who listen on iTunes, because the audio of this goes on iTunes. So it'd be strength-therapy.com. Will you have your dates posted up there for your upcoming Scully once you have them booked?
Yeah, so I'll have the locations and dates posted up there as soon as they're booked. But right now, because it's such a new thing, it's a new a course. I'm actually building up interest groups first. So if you're interested in something like the Scully Method, which I know we didn't get really. There's a couple more things I kind of want to mention about
Absolutely.
But yeah, so like if you're interested in that stuff, then like message me, and then I can put you in those interest groups, or you can search Scully Method, blah blah blah, or just Scully Method, and it should pop up like some of the different interest groups. You can just kind of add yourself to those. That's fun. But Scully Method itself is actually I meant it for it. It's literally just like an easier version of how I treat or address scoliosis. I can't say treat. Address scoliosis. But it's also, because it's just what I found, it also works for everything else. So it doesn't matter if you have scoliosis or not. If it's just a sprained ankle, it works for that too. If it's like elbow tendonitis or mystery back pain, it works for that too. But it just, I wanted to get out more so to people who have scoliosis so that they know that there's another option, there's a better option. But it's a very holistic approach, just like Carl said. It mixes a lot of different theories and a lot of different approaches to make it as holistic and give you options so that you're not just stuck with one way of addressing this one thing, because not everybody responds to the same thing. Right, so we incorporate a lot of stuff. We incorporate a lot of like neurology, applied kinesiology, neuro-linguistic programming, psychology, fascial stuff. We got muscle stuff, movement stuff. What else? We got brain stuff. Organ stuff, meridian stuff, hormone stuff, gut stuff. We got a whole bunch. Gut stuff. We got a whole bunch of stuff going on in there that all contribute to this method that everybody will need at some point in time, bits and pieces of it, right? Emotion stuff in there, there's energy stuff.
Yeah, emotions, too.
So all these different things that are going on that are things that you can choose to or not address, but anything that I bring up in the course, I have an answer to. So anything that I'm like, oh, this is how you look for this problem, well, here's an answer of what you can do about it. And then I give you options for whatever your scope is. So, and then I also give you options of whatever your abilities or your capabilities or your skills are. So, for example, like Carl can do ANF. That's actually how we met. And so I'm like, okay, well, if you can do ANF, well, this is how you apply this movement or this treatment with this method. Some people know NKT. Great, you know NKT. This is how you can apply this to this, and it makes it better. And my hope is that the practitioners that I teach take it, run with it, and make it better than I've made it. And I hope that they can contribute more to help making it even better, because, helping people in this therapeutic industry, I guess, this wellness industry, has become so competitive that people try to separate and block off and say, this is it, that's it, and that's where we stand, and that's it. They're just so closed off to everything else. And they're competitive, and they don't even want to refer to other practitioners even though it's better for the client, because they're afraid of them taking their clients. And I'm like, are you kidding me? We're trying to help this person. And if I can't do it, I want somebody else that I know that can to do it, because I want this person to be helped. I want this person to get the treatment that they're seeking. If I can't do it and I know somebody who can, I'm going to refer them over, you know? But a lot of people don't do that because they feel like it's a competition. So I've kind of taken all these different modalities, kind of smushed them all together in places where I think that they fit. And then also I have a Facebook forum for the people who have taken the course where they can share cases, and they can also help each other learn things from various modalities as well. And then if people need referral in various cities, I say, here, go see that person, here, go see that person, here, go see that person. Because I want people all over the world to get the help and the treatment that they deserve. Because those who got scoliosis when they were young, those who got scoliosis when they're older, anybody in general, they don't deserve it. They don't deserve it. So
this course, and when you reach people like you did through this course and in Singapore, then now you have all your soldiers out there who can help, and your informants out there who can help to educate people on how not to get scoliosis. It's number one. I mean, one thing, but also all this other stuff, looking at the body as a whole, and integrating all the different modalities and systems we talked about too. Because that's so, I get so frustrated with the industry and the lack of many people being open to the fact that there's more than one way. As a matter of fact, if you blend a bunch of stuff that works for you, it's probably going to be a lot better, especially if you look at the whole body. Yeah, so I really appreciate everything you're doing.
Thank you.
Yeah, really appreciate it a lot. So I didn't tell you I was going to ask this. Well, I'll ask you two questions.
Cool.
First of all, if there's anything more you want to share, I have no time limit, so you can keep going.
Well, I'm just kidding.
And number two, do you have a takeaway message or a motto or just anything that your philosophy on life, humanity, movement, helping people, whatever it is?
Well,
I didn't tell her I was going to ask this. I do this to everyone.
it's all good.
I know you do.
Yeah. I think one of the most important things that I've learned in life that applies to everything in life, I've noticed, is to listen to yourself, listen to your body, and pay attention, and do what's right for you. Don't care what other people think, don't care what other people say. If it is something that is good for you, you do it. And judgment from other people is just your perception of what other people think. But who are you to tell other people what to think, right?
Exactly.
So if you're afraid of judgment, if you're afraid of embarrassment, if you're afraid of whatever, or if, like social pressure, whatever, it's all in your own self, right?
Yeah.
Do what you want, do what you think is best for you, but listen to your body, like actually pay attention. If something tells you it's uncomfortable, make it so that it's not uncomfortable anymore, but do it in a way where it's actually healthy and not compensating. Because deep down inside, we all know what needs to be done, what should be done, but we're like, it's okay. I'll just go do this other thing instead, just, So if we do that for too long, that's how we break down. That's how we get sick. That's how we get injured. But if we start paying attention to ourselves, if we start doing what we believe is right, if we start doing what's true to us and being who we are, true to ourselves, you can't go wrong.
I'll second that one. Speaking of other people and what they think of you, there's a bass player I used to work with, this is like back in the 80s. And what he said I think was so funny. But I actually think about it this way now. He always said, what they think of us is none of our business. And you know what? It took me like 30 years to actually, I still would think about that, and I didn't get it. And then there was a point in my life where it changed, not that long ago, 3-4 years ago, where I really started to think, that person thinks I'm crazy for doing this. That's none of my business. I don't care. So don't let what you think people think about you define what you do. You should do what's good for you.
Yeah,
you know?
totally.
Cool.
Totally.
Well, I really appreciate you taking this time. We've been trying to interview for a while. It was going to be online, but we're here. This is perfect setting. And Andy, thank you for letting us use your wonderful studio here. He's got the lights here. He just happened to have these lights, so thank you, my friend.
Anytime, buddy.
And thank you.
Thank
All
you
right.
so much.
You are awesome.
This is great. Fantastic.
You are the
Thank
best.
So are you.
I really enjoyed knowing you. And
Me
I
too.
will enjoy continuing to know you. It sounds like I'm not going to know you anymore, but I will.
Yes.
And got to go to strength-therapy.com. Also search for her on Facebook, Instagram. Keep an eye out. And then us, who is here this week, we're going to be, watch us because we'll be talking about this, what we learned here. So then it'll make it maybe easier for you to, well, not easier, but you'll be able to see what we think of it and then direct you to her, sign up for the course, learn from her. Thanks.
Thank you. I really appreciate you coming out and taking time out of your very, very, very busy schedule.
Well, you told me I had to be here.
Yeah, well, but no, I really do
I've been
appreciate it.
traveling a lot,
Yeah.
but this
I
was
keep
great.
telling him to take care of himself because otherwise bad things happen. So take care of
I
yourself.
learned a lot this weekend.
Good,
Yeah,
Good.
I already feel better today than I did Friday morning.
good.
Quite a lot. So, all right. Thank you. Thank you, Andy. Thanks everyone for watching and listening, and have a great day.